The state of Ohio is suing Norfolk Southern over the February 3rd derailment of their freight train, released over 1 million gallons of hazardous materials. I don't need to remind you.
In the criminal justice system.
Yeah. I think just hearing it once is enough, but thank you. Maybe having it just run in the background, that could work also. Into the environment, with all those millions of gallons of hazardous materials and pollutants, as you know. The derailment was entirely avoidable, Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost said at a press conference. This is just yesterday this happened. Ohio's suit filed in the U.S. District Court said that the derailment resulted in the release of over 1 million gallons of hazardous materials, as I was just telling you, into Ohio's air, streams, rivers, soil, and groundwater, killing tens of thousands of fish and other animals and recklessly endangering the health of Ohioans throughout the region. The state of Ohio now has launched this case. They want prior and future costs tied to this derailment. They're saying, they're alleging this legally now in court, that the railroad violated state laws that regulated the control of hazardous waste, solid waste, and air and water pollution. I told you at the time that this horrendous catastrophe pointed up everything wrong with so many of the regulatory systems that are rolled back in this country. We keep talking about burdensome regulations, the length of the train, the number of staffers that were on the train actually managing the situation, the toxic chemicals that weren't categorized as toxic chemicals because of the deregulation. You don't need to categorize them that way anymore. So now the Norfolk Southern people will be in court against the state of Ohio. So we'll keep you posted on that. We, of course, anticipated this, but also in a San Francisco court, bravo San Francisco court, a San Francisco judge issued a legal judgment saying that the U.S. Wildlife Official Agency, made up of U.S. wildlife officials, are violating their legal duty as issued by failing to protect endangered Pacific humpback whales from being killed. This is in government-approved waters. So in other words, there are certain, again, protections that are issued to these areas involving whales, and these humpback whales are being killed in areas off the coast of California, Oregon, and Washington. This is a federal judge in the city, ruled this yesterday. The National Marine Fisheries Service was required to include a plan to protect the whales when it issued a 3-year offshore permit in 2021 to the commercial sablefish industry. They didn't do that. Sablefish are these fish, they're bottom-dwelling fish. They're caught by commercial vessels in tens of thousands of these ocean floor pots connected by these long lines. And what happens with the long lines? The whales become entangled in them.
Yeah.
Thankfully, this federal judge stepped up in the city. There are various protective strategies that the judge is asking the agency to issue and to follow through on. And essentially, the judge is saying that the agency and wildlife officials didn't do enough to satisfy their obligation under the laws that protect humpback whales. And I'll remind you, that's an endangered species. So
humpbacks are endangered?
They're considered in peril or something. There's a category before endangered officially, and they're vanishing or imperiled or something. So I might have misspoke when I say endangered. It's the Batmobile Saga, quickly will update that. They, believe it or not, had an independent investigation. This happened right down in the peninsula. Guy had commissioned for a Batmobile facsimile to be made, like a real version of the Batmobile, to be constructed in Indiana, and the San Mateo County Board of Soups had to vote to make this report public, and they did. There was a raid by the San Mateo County Sheriff's investigators to this Indiana garage. They sent the cops all the way to Indiana.
Outrageous.
To the garage that builds these Batmobiles. We told you at the time it was ridiculous, an incredible overreach. And the guy hadn't paid his bill. There was a reason they were holding up the delivery of the Batmobile. It sounds insane, but this is a rich guy who was paying a couple $100,000 for the Batmobile. There's nothing wrong with being rich or buying a Batmobile, but I'm saying then to have your buddy, who was the then leaving office sheriff, send out a couple of, it was 4, I believe, of his deputies there to essentially, in my judgment, more or less shake down and scare this garage person. They pulled him into the police station. Well, they did the investigation, and of course, it's completely out of line. The report says the sheriff took the call from the Batmobile orderer, if you will, client, because he's acquainted with him. He's a local business person and a friend of the sheriff's brother. The sheriff referred the case to the head of his vehicle theft task force, even though this case did not fall within its mission. The head of the task force spent 6 months investigating this, then took a crew of 4 department personnel to raid the Batmobile garage in Indiana. Anyway, the judge said that this is way out of line, and the report calls out everybody for that ridiculous boondoggle and that shakedown. And that is Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.